The Ask Ken show, and we're going to have a great night tonight. Kevin here is going to be hosting me, so I'll let you take it away, Kevin.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the June 22nd Ask Ken show.
Yeah.
Just like every week, I think this is what, our third? Is this our
Yeah.
third or fourth?
Yeah.
Third.
We have
Our
fun
third
with it.
show. And just like the other two shows, this is your show, guys. If you have a question, get into the chat. Drop your question into the chat. Ken doesn't just answer the questions off the top of his head. Ken actually goes and channels them and gives us the answer as best he can from the messages that he gets or the answers he gets when he re-asks the question. No questions off limits. We'll pick and choose. If we get too many, a lot of times we don't get to all the questions, obviously, because a lot of times there's a bunch of questions in there. When you log on, and if you could say hello to us and tell us where you're from, we'll give your hometown a shout out. Arthur Matute. I hope I'm saying that name right, Arthur. Where are you from, Arthur? He says, I finally made it. So
Yeah.
I guess he's tried to log on the first two nights.
So everyone who's watching, the way that this works, the Ask Ken show, is you just go ahead and ask questions in the chat. Kevin's going to look at them. So my name's Ken of channelinginc.com. I train people for a living on how to channel. This is what I do full time. So you can ask anything to do with spirituality, anything to do with any kind of spiritual topics, but just ask it in the chat. So this is a participatory kind of Q&A, if you want to say it that way, Q&A kind of question and answer. So I'll go ahead and Kevin will ask me the questions. And then while I'm answering, Kevin's going to queue up the next one. But we need your participation. So let's have a good night tonight. Let's have fun. Like Kevin said, just go ahead and ask away and then mention where you're from so we can give you a shout out. And I'll let you go ahead, Kevin.
I can't see where this, it just comes up as Facebook user for me from Edmonton, Alberta. I don't know, Ken, can you see the chat? Are you able to see a name?
It doesn't say the name, so...
just Facebook user from Edmonton, Alberta.
Well,
and we have Maddie Noise, I hope I'm saying that right, from Winona, Minnesota.
Yeah.
I think I know that. I think I know that young lady.
Yeah.
And great. Arthur says, my forehead is tingling.
Ooh.
That is a good thing, Arthur. Whenever Ken and we chat quite often, obviously, and anytime we chat, I'm like, oh gosh, I got goosebumps on my.
So let's make this our first question. What could this mean?
Yes.
Like oftentimes, I'm checking in on for Arthur, like him specifically, and actually, what's happening right now is he's actually increasing his connection as we're speaking. Like he's like actually channeling, like his channeling connections are actually expanding. I can feel it and see it. Like it just gives me goosebumps just talking about it. I love it.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Sometimes it's our spirit guides and other things like that. And sometimes it's actually ourselves. And in this case, it's actually, so we're not just like, kind of like our body has all these different organs that do different functions. Well, that's our 3D components, but we also have a whole bunch of non-physical components that make us up as like non-spiritual or non-physical that are spiritual components. So in this case, for him, it's actually opening up his spiritual channels, which is really cool.
That is very, very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And it's connecting through his higher self. And I keep getting like his third eye and crown chakra and as a bit of his throat, but more up here, which is really awesome.
So he says, it doesn't always happen, but it does when I stay watching. So that's cool. Yeah. Jackie Turner is tuning in. I know Jackie's just down the road from me, so she's in a beautiful Airdrie, Alberta.
Just outside
Ken didn't mention he's from
Canmore, Alberta. Yes. Just an hour-ish west of Calgary. So if you look on a map and you find Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and you go west, I am right in the Rocky Mountains of Canada. There's big, huge mountains everywhere. It's beautiful landscape. And I'm doing a Spirituality is Fun Expo out here on July 2nd. So everyone who... people from BC, Saskatchewan, Alberta, even the United States coming in, and it's going to be a blast.
That's awesome.
Forward to it. So anybody's welcome. You want to make
it be fun.
Here, July 2nd, Canada Day long weekend.
Natasha Willoughby says, "Hey guys," and of
Oh,
course,
hey.
Natasha's from beautiful Airdrie, Alberta, as well. We got a whole contingent from Airdrie, Alberta, the most spiritual place on earth, I'll say.
Oh, we have someone from Lethbridge, Alberta.
Oh,
Yeah,
I missed Shelley. Sorry, Shelley from
I see
Lethbridge.
her. I got her back. I
There
got her
you
back.
go. You got her. You got her.
So what kind of
So
questions would everyone like to hear? If you're just tuning in, please type in what kind of spiritual questions would you want to know? Anything like about your spirit family, the way that soul families work, any kind of spiritual questions. So go ahead and ask in. Just type in the chat there, and Kevin's going to ask me those questions, and then we'll go into detail. We'll have tons of fun with it. By the way, my slogan is spirituality is meant to be fun. And the reason that
yes.
this is my slogan is because I don't know about you, but some people take this stuff way too serious. And don't get me wrong, there's a time and place. We need to do our healing and clearing, and that's that kind of sucky work, but it's necessary. But if overall, in general, we can make this stuff fun and
And
have
this is what
really
it's supposed to be. This is what it's
yeah,
supposed to be. The energy you feel from Ken and I, that's what it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be all doom and gloom. That's not it. It's this.
actually, you want to know something really cool? Not a lot of people know this. I've been a healer for a long, long time, like way back in the early 2000s. I've been doing healing work and I have tons of training and all that. And what a lot of healers or people in general don't realize is that there's actually a lot of healing and fun. There's a
Oh,
lot of
yes.
healing and joy.
Laughter.
There's a lot, yeah. So if you actually go to like the hospitals, some of the hospitals they'll have like clowns and other comedians or
Yes.
whatever come in for the patients, and they've actually proven this. The patients that attend those uh, comedian activities and fun activities, they actually their recovery goes a lot quicker than the ones that don't, because what's it doing to your physical body physiologically? It's actually helping to heal you, and again, not just on a physical but a spiritual level, a soul level, and all those other aspects. Like wow, like so what if we included this in our spiritual journey and making spirituality fun? Like how cool would that
Oh,
be? And so that's why
exactly.
I do what I do, and I try to do it as much as possible within reason, in an upbeat, have fun kind of way, so that it's actually healing, and it's just such a much better way to live.
Here's a great question that I've often wondered, and it's right along those same lines. How do we protect ourselves from if we're having a great day and it's really good, but there's that negative, you can feel someone's negative energy coming in at you. How can you protect yourself from that?
Yeah, you go hide in a cave, you go really deep, and all the rocks around you will protect you. No, no. So obviously, if we're in the middle of a work day and we can't just say, sorry, boss, I'm feeling kind of vulnerable right now, so I'm just going to leave work at 2 o'clock. Like, probably won't be happy with that. So
It's Friday
um,
at 2 o'clock. Gotta go.
I have a couple point of views on protection. So, in my early days of my spiritual journey and my channeling and developing all that, I used to always go around like, I need to protect myself before I do this. I need to protect myself. I got to put protection around this, protection around that, protection around myself. And I was always living in that kind of fear based. Like I'm always worried about it. And don't get me wrong, there is a time and place when I do agree that that is necessary. However, what I've found after I've kind of gone through that about 10 to 15 years later of going through it, I've actually found that the bulk of the time I don't need to have to worry about that, but there's a reason for this. And the reason is because what I do along the way and what I really encourage for my clients and my students to do along the way is keep doing your healing and clearing. And what I do in my one-on-one sessions and oftentimes in my groups is I'll actually do spiritual upgrades at the same time. So the reason why I say healing and clearing is because you want to be a clear vessel. So oftentimes what happens is when something outside of us comes into us, if this is like all gunked up and contaminated and gunky and all that, then the outside energies will come into us, but part of it will actually cling to us, so it's kind of clingy, right? And so if we do our healing and clearing, then the energy could come in and it flows through us, but it doesn't get stuck. So that's why I really emphasize the healing and clearing. And then the other thing that I've noticed is that what's really important is to have the spiritual upgrades along the way. So the enhancements, the attunements, the activations, because what that does is it keeps building our protection, our protective fields that are naturally in place, things like our auric field and other protection systems. And it helps us to be more resilient against any of those kind of external attacks. So that's probably the best way long term to do it. In the interim, what you can do is something that I've created called the expulsion command, which is you can expel anything that is not in your highest and greatest good. Now, you don't need to do this 10 or 15 times a day. That's ridiculous. But like I might need to do it once or twice a month for me, if that. And I do channeling all day, every day. But overall, like people have this kind of this fear thing that, oh, if I learn channeling, I'm going to open myself up to something bad. I'm like, no, no, you're not. You're already channeling. Things that are not of the light might be able to affect you even now. So why not learn what's going on in the spirit world, in the spirit realm, so that if something does come across your path that is not of the light and not in your highest and greatest interest, I will teach you the tools on how to deal with it, set boundaries with it so it can't affect you anymore, and get rid of it, and actually, do things that are going to keep you safe. Because I wish, in the ideal world that, oh, everything is just love and light and happy and joy. And unfortunately, there is some things that are not of the light. And so why not learn what they are? So when you do notice, you don't go out looking for it, but when they do come across your path, or they're in your vicinity and they are affecting you or someone else detrimentally, then you have the tools and you know what to do with it and how to deal with it.
Makes total sense.
But that's my short answer, by the way.
That was a short answer. Natasha has a great question, and I ran into this personally all the time. Why is it sometimes you can channel your guides very clearly, and other days it is very difficult to channel them?
That's a wonderful question. There's actually multiple possibilities, and sometimes it's many of those reasons. So one of them could be you're just having an off day, and we all do. Sometimes our energy's low. Sometimes it's the food we eat. One of the biggest, most common ones that I find, not just with my clients but with myself, is when it's something that I have a real strong vested interest in or an emotional charge around. Then I find it more difficult to get clear answers because I find it hard to get myself out of the way.
Yes.
And then I can easily influence the answer. So that's where, in those circumstances, I usually recommend, like my students, when I do my workshops, I say, please stay in touch with each other, collaborate with each other, so that when these odd situations come up, you can, like, I don't suggest doing it all the time. I try to empower my students to do the bulk of the channeling for themselves, and really empower them on how to do it. But once in a while, when those situations come up, when there's a strong charge around it, then you could maybe, hey, bounce it off a classmate or somebody like me or Kevin or Natasha Willoughby or whoever, like, who can actually check, because they don't have such a vested interest in it, so they can be more objective instead of subjective. So,
And
uh,
is it not
and
true,
then
Ken?
there could be
So
things that could be actually external influencing you and things like that, which is what I just talked about. So making sure that your external environment's clear and there's nothing negative or not of the light affecting you. And then also making sure, like, there's something called psychic links and energetic tethers that could also be influencing the answer. So you could clear those first and then try to get more clear answers from your guides and stuff like that.
that totally makes sense. Is it not a good practice to make sure, even as a practitioner, that you go to other practitioners for that clearing when you feel you can't do it?
Yeah, I really, so um so I'm going to say this straight up. Never go to a healer who doesn't do their own healing work,
Yes.
and ask them. Be straight up and push them on it. Don't just be like, "Oh, do you do your healing work?" "Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah." No, be like, "Okay, well, when was the last time you went?" And not themselves. "Oh, I do a healing." So, no, I mean actually go out and do self, like, healing with others. So, just in the last 3 days, I've seen three different practitioners, just myself.
Yeah.
And the reason why, what I've noticed is, oftentimes in the spirituality industry, is practitioners that don't do regular healing sessions with other healers, is they tend to digress or get actually more unhealthy. And so what I really encourage with my students in my workshops is that while you're building your skill sets and your channeling abilities and all that, please go to healers on a regular basis so you can become healthier and healthier and stronger, and have more capacity. And because I don't want just skilled channelers and skilled practitioners out there. I want healthy ones that have, they're able to get themselves out of the way. They're not tainting the answers. They're not influencing it, and letting them their own stuff get in the way. And that we all have, like, it was probably about, for 10 years, I kept saying, when I get there, when I'm healed, when I get there, when I'm healed, when I get there, then all this stuff will be fine. And then after about 10 years of keep saying that, I said to myself, I go, you know what? Maybe I'll never actually get there, wherever there is. And
Yes.
so, what if instead of me saying that someday I'll get there, what if I just, in the meantime, I just embrace and welcome the stuff that heals from, or comes surfaces from our subconscious to our consciousness, because it's surfacing to be cleared. And what if for the rest of my life I'm go through like healing and clearing and all that, and be okay with it and actually embrace it and welcome it every time it surfaces. And once I made that shift about 10 years ago, my healing just skyrocketed, because I was actually welcoming it and I wasn't shying away from it or thinking someday. And you know what? And I do believe in miracles. Maybe someday I won't have that much, or if anything, to. But in the meantime, I'm just gonna go along with, maybe it's going to be a lifelong journey, and I'm okay with that. So I really do encourage everyone to, um, in as they're enjoying, as they're enjoying and really embracing the spirituality as fun concept along the journey, please do your healing and clearing along the way, so that you could just become healthier. And one thing I recommend anyone who's in a relationship is, don't worry about whether your partner does it or doesn't. That's not really relevant so
No.
much. It's just focus on yourself, and working on healing you and your journey. And if your partner wants to come along, great. If they don't, great. But it's not about that. It's more about you just focusing on yourself, and taking responsibility for the stuff that surfaces within me, so that that can be healed. And does that make sense? Like,
Totally makes sense. Totally,
yeah,
totally.
yeah, I'm really passionate about this. So please do your healing work along the way.
And you're going to be passionate about this one because this is what you do. This is actually what you do. I've had a couple people ask, um, can you give them tips on the best ways to communicate with their guides?
So, first, biggest tip I would suggest, especially for newer people, is really just try to ground and center yourself. And so, what I mean by this is, they're actually two separate things. So, grounding, there's not a lot of people know this, but there's two ways to ground. One way is through your root chakra. Like, imagine a cord going deep, deep down in the earth, and then wrapping around the center of the earth and make it nice and taut, nice and tight. The other way is actually having roots come out of your feet, and there actually are two different ways. They're totally separate, but when you do both together, then it allows you to ground really strong. And there's a concept out there that's kind of like a kite. The stronger you're grounded, the higher you could fly, and that is so true.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then, so ground yourself. The other one is centering yourself. So take a deep breath and just bring all your energy and gather it, and be centered right here, right in your heart center, and just present yourself. And then that what that does, especially for newer people, is it really helps you to get into a more conducive state to channel. And then from there, what you want to do is you want to invite one of your spirit guides to come forward. You want to feel psychically around you, where in the room might they be. And the reason why you do this is because what that does is, when you feel like nowadays we actually have highly sensitive camera systems that could capture our spirit guides on camera. So just like imagine if the camera was there, where would my spirit guide be? Kind of like feel psychically and go do 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 do, right here, okay? And then you lock in on them where they are physically, and that gives you a focal point and allows you to really like hone in. And what I really encourage my students to do is, when they connect with their guides and channel with their guides, try to actually get out of your head and
Yes.
get into your heart center, get into your soul center, and really connect with this guide on a soul to soul level. So try to purposely just drop down into your heart center, and then make that really strong, beautiful, amazing, loving connection with your spirit guide, who is a member of your soul family and is here to help and support you. They're humans, they're people like you and I, just in non-physical form, and finally we have technology that can prove they're there. So and then at the beginning is, like, as you're beginning your channeling journey, is really try to feel the subtleties and really get to, like, it's subtle at the beginning, but as you get better at this, then you can actually start to discern the difference between what's coming from them, what's coming from you, and start to figure that out. And I do suggest for everyone at some point in your journey, you do consider taking actual formal training, like training on actually how to walk through this, and it's step by step, and you learn all the different facets of channeling rather than just trying to wing it on your own, which is fine if you want to. But if you really want to accelerate your learning curve and you want to do it quick and fast in a good, healthy way, I do suggest like formal training and making sure you're doing it in a safe way as well.
And I will kind of touch on that because Ken knows exactly what I'm going to say. I did exactly what Ken said to, and I took formal training. Ken is a teacher. He's probably one of, and I'm not just saying this because he's here, he's one of the best teachers I have ever had the privilege of being in a classroom with. And it was over Zoom, and I thought, oh, I'm going to fall asleep. 8 hours of someone talking on Zoom. No, it's very, very interactive. It's very it goes quick. 8 hours is a snap of the fingers in this course. If you want to learn how to channel, Ken Lewicki, channeling.com. I'm not,
Yeah.
and he has level 1, 2, and 3. He also has an intro course that you can take.
Yeah.
Log on to his website. It's all there. It's well worth it.
Yeah. Thank you, Kevin.
Someone asked, and I'm just going to get you to touch on this, I hope. Can you talk about the difference between religion and spirituality?
Yeah. So I get a lot of people from all sorts of demographics, cultures, backgrounds, ethnic groups from all over the world, literally like India, South America, Central America, Europe, Asia, you name it, Middle East. Every single culture you can imagine. What's really cool about what I do is it doesn't matter what the culture is or what their religious beliefs are, because when I actually have them channel their spirit guides, they're like, oh my goodness. Like, and what's really cool is on a soul level, even if we don't know it consciously, on a soul level, we know that what we're experiencing when we start to first channel our spirit guides is real. Like, it's not something that's made up, and it transcends any kind of religion, any kind of cultural beliefs, any kind of biblical stuff that's been written about, and it doesn't matter whether it's Bible or Quran or any other religious text or culture or whatever. It transcends all that, because on a soul level, we know that what we're feeling is truth. What we're actually experiencing is truth, and we know this because when we die and we cross over to the astral realm, we are soul form. And then when we incarnate, we can incarnate in a culture anywhere on the planet. And during that incarnation, we might pick up a religion during that incarnation. And then when we die and we cross over, we go back to the spirit form and soul in a soul form. And then when we incarnate again, we might incarnate on a totally different end of the planet. And in that part of the planet, there might be a totally different religion, and we might grow up in that culture, in that environment. But that doesn't necessarily make one religion or religious belief better or worse or different or whatever. And what the spirituality that I teach people is that it transcends all that. What's really going on, let's figure that out on a spiritual level. And the last thing I ever want to do is make spirituality another religion. So let's make sure that what we're actually doing is accurate and it's true, and it's not just something that we're making up or hypothesizing about. Like, I don't actually try to convince people of anything. So I'll get people of all sorts of religious backgrounds and cultural backgrounds in my workshops, and I'll be like, hey, I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I'll teach you how to channel your spirit guides, and then from there you can get the answers yourself. And I, whatever conclusion you come to is totally cool. I'm not here to take sides or say it's right or wrong, none of that, because that's not up to me. It's me empowering you to figure it out for yourself and get the answers that feels right for you.
Exactly. Arthur Matute, he's been asking some questions, or actually, he's just been posting something. So I want to ask, because this comes up quite often to anybody when you mention spirituality. They're like, oh, I seen 1111. I seen 1010. What do these, when you see numbers all the time, and people do it quite often, they'll see 1010 or they'll see 1111 2 times a day. Does it really mean it? Is there meaning behind it?
There can be. And sometimes it's just that you just notice it and just notice it. I like to have fun with it. So there's a couple things on this. Is in my workshops, what I do is there's an exercise, because my workshops are not, like Kevin was saying, they're not just me talking the whole entire time. We go through one exercise after the next, after the next, after the next. And one of the exercises I do in channeling level one is I go, okay, let's brainstorm. How might your spirit guides get your attention? And some people might say, well, if I find a dime, or there's feathers, or maybe through TV shows or music or media, like social media, or, a post, or a billboard sign or something like that. And like, there's lots of ways that, like, there's a whole bunch more that they come up with. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. And then I say to them, I say, okay, you're not going to make it up from this point forward. What have I just done? I've just taught you how to channel your guides. So if you see a feather, in a park, is that actually like a sign from your spirit guides? And so what I'm doing is I'm saying, okay, now you can check. So check. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just a random feather, but sometimes
Sometimes it's just a bird flew over and dropped a
but
feather.
sometimes it is your guides. And
Yes.
now you can discern the difference, right? And so what I don't want people to do is just make it up and assume that, oh, because I've seen these repeating numbers, or 1010 or 1111 or whatever, that means that's my guides, trying to give me a sign, or maybe it is, but maybe it's not. But how do you figure that out? That's how what we covered. We actually cover that topic in the training, so that you're not just making it up. And I tell my students this. Are you ready for this? We go through this list of all these different ways that your spirit guides try to get your attention, because you have to remember, in spirit form, it's actually very difficult for your guides to get your attention. So,
They can't come knock on your head. They don't have
well, they
arms.
try to, but we're like, hello, McFly, or like, we're like, hello, hello. So they try all these different methods to get our attention. However, are you ready for this? When none of this stops, when none of this is happening anymore, and it all stops, it's actually a good thing. You know why?
Yes, because you're actually communicating.
That's right, because they don't need to use all these other methods to try to get your attention, because you're already connecting with them and following their
Oh
guidance and all
gosh,
that. So,
yes.
right, they don't have to try to go, oh, what kind of song could I do? I need to, make it so it comes on the radio at that right time, or, that they look over here to see the clock changes 11:11, or, whatever, because you're already connected. So just keep that in mind, that as you keep practicing your channeling, it's actually a good thing when those things fade away.
It is.
So.
Excuse my voice. Somebody's asking, when we die, I'm going to rephrase the question for him. When we die, and I don't like the word die. When our soul crosses over, where do we go?
We go to the astral realm. The astral
Okay.
realm. So I've kind of already said it. I'll say it a different way. Is that um, so some people believe in reincarnation, some people don't. I found it to be true that it is actually a thing. And so what happens is, when we die or we cross over, or transition, whatever wording you want to use, we actually transition to spirit form in the astral realm. And the astral realm is where our soul family resides. And that's where we hang out when we're not incarnated. And there's actually an exercise I do in my channeling level 2 workshop, where I actually have my students, with their spirit guide. The spirit guide will give them a tour of the astral realm to see all the different parts of it. It's really beautiful. It's fabulous. Like, it has all these different parts of it. And I could go into detail, like, there's lots. And so what happens is, we reside there until we're ready to incarnate again. And some people who don't believe in reincarnation, what I've purposely done is, in my channeling level 1, is I will take them through a past life regression, where they've actually lived a past life on this planet, where, like, a different lifetime. And they're like, oh my goodness, I have had past lives. That is so cool. Rather than just talk about it, I actually have them experience it. So, and one
Yes.
of the biggest reasons I do this is because, um, a lot of people, they fear death, but it's not really necessary to fear it. So depending on the cultures, like some cultures around the world, which I really like this, they actually celebrate when somebody dies and they transition, because it's like a celebration of life, and they know that they're not dead, they're just transitioning. But in a lot of the Western cultures or European cultures and things like that, there's actually, they think like death is a bad thing and horrible and tragic and all this other stuff. And on a soul level, it's like, no, I'm fine. Like, I'm going back to the astral realm because my soul
Going
family.
home. Going
Yeah, and
home.
I'm going to come back again, probably, most likely. And then
Yes.
the reason why I do the past life regression And I do a bunch of other exercises throughout levels 1 and 2, like mediumship on how to channel loved ones and things like that. Is so I'm hoping that what happens over these workshops is they realize that death isn't anything to fear, and that it's a normal part of life, of transitioning from incarnated form to non-incarnated form to incarnated form to non-incarnated form, and so on. And that it actually helps them to be healthier around it, not just for themselves, but also to support the loved ones that might still have the old dogma belief that death is a negative or bad thing. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to take away that there is still the grief that goes with actually having somebody physically there. And I get all that. And I have the compassion and love for the people. I do a lot of mediumship readings on a weekly basis where loved ones have passed over. And when I work with my clients on this, I tear up. Usually I tear up with them because I can feel the heartache and the pain and the grief that they're going through. Just to know, though, that they're not dead and they are still alive. And that's where we go when we die and we cross over as the astral realm.
My guides, just to touch on that, my guides gave me a great one line to say, we should celebrate death, but not encourage it. And it was like, that just was like, oh, yeah.
That would be a good bumper sticker.
Yes, there you go. Sorry, I'm going to go back. I have to scroll up because we're getting a lot of comments. Somebody had a dream last night that they were stealing. Are dreams always a signal, or do they have hidden meanings to dreams?
The first thing that came to my mind is that what's that song where I got caught stealing once. Anyways, the guy's going
I'm way older than you, Ken. I don't
the guy's
know
going
that
through the
song.
grocery store and he's putting stuff in his. Anyway, so yeah, so it was actually in channeling level 3. I talk about what's called dream interpretation. And now I'm gonna hear me when I say this. Sometimes a dream is just a dream. Sometimes a dream is you working through stuff, and it does have meaning. And I do recommend my students have like a notepad and a pen and paper and a notepad by their nightstand so they could jot down some bullet points, especially their feelings and emotions. Like really, like don't just jot down the intellectual of what happened, but actually try to like go into the how did I feel in
That's a
this
good
moment? How
point.
did I feel in that moment? And really draw out the feelings, because oftentimes that's stuff that we're working through. Another thing that could happen is what's called dream walking. So dream walking and astral traveling are really the same thing. One, astral traveling is when you're awake and you lay down on the ground and you allow your body, your etheric body or non-physical body, to separate from your physical body, and then you could actually go traveling around in the what I call the earth plane, this plane, and then or the yeah. So in the earth plane, you can actually go traveling around while you're still awake. And then whenever it's totally safe, as long as you stay in the light and all that stuff, it's fine. And I do encourage my students to give it a shot and try it. And so what dream walking is, it's the same thing, but you're doing it while you're in a dream state. That's all. But
Yes.
it's really the same thing. And so those three things, like sometimes a dream's just a dream and it has no meaning. Sometimes a dream is you working through it, so it's your own stuff. And sometimes it could be actually dream walking.
And during a dream walk, can you actually have a conversation with a family member or a loved one or anybody
Spirit guide,
who has
yeah.
crossed over?
Yeah. So, and that's another thing I encourage my students to do is when you're in your dreams, try to actually, rather than just being a passerby and let the dreams happen to you, see if you can try to like control your dreams, be involved in the dreams, participate in it. And if you see someone that's there in your dream, try to talk with them. And
Yes.
maybe it's your spirit guide and they want to give you advice, or a loved one or something like that. And they want you to connect with them. It does take practice, but do try it. And journaling, like having a dream journal, does help for you to get better at being so it's called lucid dreaming. Basically being active while you're dreaming is a really cool technique.
I wish I knew this when I was a young teenager, and I used to have these conversations with my dad that you knew about, and I could have written them down, and I could have remembered them. It would have been cool. How long does it take to complete your journey? I'm not sure what she means by that. Susan, if you can kind of elaborate on that, I'm not sure which journey you're talking about. If you're talking about the journey of life, or how many lives we have to live until we're finished incarnating. Let's use that one, Ken. Is there a set amount of like we live? I'm just going to pick a number. 100 lives and we get a celebration, a centennial celebration, and it's over and done?
I know there's some theories out there that theorize this. I haven't found that to be accurate, to be true. Where
Yeah.
basically some people will incarnate several hundred times, some people will incarnate several thousands of times, maybe even more. And there really, from what I found, there is no end to a journey, whether it's this lifetime or multiple lifetimes or in between lives, even. Like people have this theory too that they think that. Um, yeah, we're growing and evolving while we're incarnated, but when we're in spirit form, we're just like, oh, floating on. No, you're actually growing and evolving when you're in the astral realm with your soul family and all that, and you actually are growing, like learning and evolving and expanding as well. So it's a constant evolution, and it doesn't ever stop. Like our souls, all of us, are literally eons ancient, and we never stop learning or growing. There is no end to any journey that I've been aware of.
She clarified what she wants to know: is there a time frame from the time we cross, our soul leaves this earthly vessel till the time we get to the other side? Is it
Uh,
instantaneously, or is
yeah,
there?
no, it's instantaneously. It happens instant. However, there might be a containment period where we are so being incarnated can be pretty tough on us and our soul level. And so oftentimes what happens is as soon as we die or cross over and our soul leaves our physical body or shell, then we'll go to the astral realm where our soul family will actually help and support us for a period of time, um, like to help us process the incarnation period and what it was like to be incarnated on earth and anything we need to work through, any healing that needs to be done, any processing and all that. And then once that's done, then we're released to the general public in the astral realm, and then we continue on in the astral realm like normal.
That makes total
Good,
sense.
good question. Yeah, thank you for
Very good
clarifying.
question. Yes. Anne Marie Simmons. I'm not sure where she's from, but is it common to have fragmented memories of past lives randomly pop up in your mind without going through a past life regression?
Yeah, happens all the time. So there's two areas that our past lives are stored. One is in our soul, and our soul is actually right in our sternum area. So it's actually not our heart chakra, and it's not our solar plexus chakra. It's actually right in between. So right where your rib cage, the bottom of your rib cage meets is called your sternum area, and that's where the center or the seat of your soul is what's called in some theologies, the seat of your soul, which is right here. And so that's the epicenter of your soul and where it resides. So when I take my students through past life regressions, that's where I get them to focus on and have them real like your soul is there. It always has the memories accessible. We're just not usually aware or conscious of it. So sometimes we might get glimpses of past lives, like kind of like little flickers of a flash of a TV screen. Like it'll just be like, oh, there's an image, or sometimes it's not always an image. Sometimes it's a feeling. Sometimes it's a sound or a voice. So it could come in multiple forms. And then the other area that our past lives are stored is in our called our Akashic records. And our Akashic records is, think of like a book. And in this book, there's anything and everything you've ever experienced, felt, any circumstance, situation is all written in this book. It's called like the Book of Life. But it's not just the book from this lifetime, it's from all lifetimes. And it's not just one book, it's a whole library of books. And so that's the other area where your past lives and past life information could be stored. It could be stored in your soul, it could be stored in your Akashic records, or it could be stored in both. And then knowing how to access when and where is actually really important and can be really valuable. And not just for again, spirituality is meant to be fun. So yeah, we could go in there and dig around in your soul, in your past lives, or your Akashic records, your past lives for doing the healing and clearing. And don't get me wrong, that is important and appropriate at times. But why not also, when it's appropriate, to go in there and bring and retrieve good, fun, positive things from those past lives into this present one and embody those and bring it into this present lifetime that you have right now? How cool is that?
Yes. So we've mentioned a soul a bunch of times tonight. Like almost every question you had mentioned soul. For a lot of the people who are listening, they hear the word soul, but it's like, what's a soul? Like, I don't understand. Like, it is it invisible? Is it visible? What is a soul?
The soul is actually the most important component that makes us up as a human. So it is, if you think of like, you know how cryogenics, that scientists think that, oh, if I freeze if I freeze, so people pay for this. and the theory is that if I freeze my body, that someday in the future, maybe 100 years ago, 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now, they will be able to bring my body back to life. And I'm not saying that's not possible. I do think it will be possible at some point. However, the part that I think that scientists are going to really struggle with is that, yeah, they might be able to bring the physical container back to life, but how are they actually going to bring the soul back into that body, especially if that soul is busy in the astral realm, or if that soul is incarnated in someone else in a different like part of the planet and is incarnated somewhere else on, right? Like, how are they going to figure that part out? And I think that's going to be the part that they're going to struggle with the most and try to like be baffled about. Okay, we can bring the body back, but what about the soul? And the reason I bring up this example is because our soul is literally the most important component. So if our soul left our body right now, our container would just collapse and we would just be there. And you've seen this happen with people in a coma. And then, and I'm not saying there's certain situations where people are in a coma, but the soul is still there. And then maybe a few months or years later, that person comes out of the coma and then they're alive. It's because their soul never actually did leave. However, there are certain times when the soul is long gone, and the only thing keeping the body, physical body, alive is the machines that are able to do that. But the soul's not coming back. It's like, no, I'm out of here,
Ken,
and it's hanging out in the astral realm. So your soul is the centerpiece of what makes you up as a human, and it's that part of you that transitions from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime to lifetime, and contains things like your personality, your ego, your vanity, um, your personality, and all those other components that make you up as a human. And there's a bunch more that come with you from lifetime to lifetime. So it's actually a really cool topic,
it
and your
is.
soul is the epicenter of all that.
You could spend a whole hour talking about that, I think, because there's all
And
kinds of questions came up when you had said that.
yeah, and we do go into way more depth than that in the workshops on what a
Yes.
soul really is. And then
So
I actually get
can
people
a
to
soul
know and
leave a body?
identify different types of souls, which is
Can a
neat.
soul leave a body and come back?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Soul can leave a body and come back. It can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Susan, when we don't during the Ask Ken show, we don't ask specifics, but I'm going to kind of rephrase your questions. So you can spirit guides give advice to people on their business?
Yeah, great question. So, my experience has been training thousands of people over the years is that most people have between 3 to 5 spirit guides during any one season of their life. Some can have two, some can have six, and it can vary depending on what season, what's going on. Some people think, oh, 5 more guides, it's better. And I remember someone, because that one time I had lots of guides, and someone said to me, oh, Ken, it's because you're high maintenance. I'm like, no, it's not. And then I checked, oh, man. There was
It
actually
is.
some truth to that. But anyways, so let's say somebody has 3 spirit guides, right? And the thing is, if they have 3 spirit guides, well, obviously there's more than 3 areas of one's life. You know, there's like relationships, finances, spirituality, health, soul's purpose, hobbies, leisure, all these like different topics. I could go on and on. Finances, right? Like all these different areas of one's life. And so if there's 3 guides, oftentimes one guide will cover multiple areas of their life. And also, let's say, for example, a job or a career or a business or whatever, oftentimes you'll have 2 guides responsible for that. So let's say, for example, at your job, you're having troubles at your job. So you might invite your career guide to come in to help you with your work, your job situation. But you might also have your relationship guide who comes in because obviously at your job you have relationship stuff going on. So that the two guides in this example will actually coincide and collaborate to help you figure out like where do I go with my job situation, or what do I do in my business situation, and what would be the best trajectory or action that I need to take in order for my business to prosper, or whatever area of your life to prosper.
Yes, perfect. I'm just going to read this one because it's not making sense to me, but I'm thinking it might make sense to you. Um, what about people who are called light workers? People who come from the sun, for example. Do they also spend time on, or maybe she means in the astral realm?
Yeah, so let me clarify this. This is kind of a misconception is a soul is a soul is a soul is a soul. And we just like, so I didn't mention this, however, in my channeling level 1, another thing I do besides the past life regression on this planet is I actually take them through where they've experienced and lived a past life on another planet. And I do this purposely because I want them to shed the idea that, being an alien or being from another planet all of a sudden makes them different or special, or like if they have a guide that's presenting themselves as alien form or whatever. Because look around, everybody on Earth pretty much has incarnated on another planet at some form, at some point in their history, in their thousands of incarnations that they've had. So there are what's called star seeds, or there's a lot of different like new souls and stuff like that. So star seeds are basically, the way that the name came from this is that it's like a soul who's incarnated on another star system, and they come to this planet and they're relatively new to this planet, meaning they've maybe only incarnated 5 or 10 times on this planet. So they're what's considered a new soul, or a seed that's come from another planet and a star seed, another star system, and they've incarnated on this planet, but it doesn't make them any special or better or different than ones that are not. So, for example, me, if I'm an old soul, I'm just using this hypothetically as an example. If I'm an old soul on this planet, but I incarnate on another planet, that would make me considered a new soul or a starseed on that planet. But that doesn't make me better or special on their planet, because I just means I'm a new soul for that planet, is what they mean. But all souls are the same age, and we've all been created at the same time. So there's real no difference between any of it. So what I really try to encourage my students to do is shed this whole ego thing, like, oh, I'm an old soul, so I'm better than you, and wear it like a badge of honor, or this person's a star seed, so they must be. No, it's not better or right or wrong. It's what's really cool though about star seeds is they just have a different perspective, because they're like, well, this isn't what we do on my planet. Like, this is different, and some of this stuff doesn't work for me. So it actually can be good for us, humans who have been incarnating on this planet for thousands of times, going, oh boy, maybe we should change our ways and do things differently. And but if we incarnated on their planet, they might see us as the same perspective as us helping them. So
So a
yeah,
star seed, if they incarnate onto Earth, when they leave Earth, where does their soul go up when they leave Earth?
astro realm. So
Back to
also after they incarnate, no matter what planet in the
That's what I was getting at. Yeah.
solar system, galaxy of Milky Way, which is trillions of solar systems in the Milky Way, and then trillions of stars and or trillions of galaxies in the universe. So it doesn't matter. A soul is a soul is a soul, and
They
then
all
they
go to they
incarnate.
all died in the astral realm. You can incarnate anywhere. You
Yeah,
always go home.
yeah,
Makes sense.
you got it. Yeah, good question.
This is we're getting like deep because I've never heard these topics before. Um, have you ever heard of the silver cord? Can you tell us about the silver cord?
Yeah. So our silver cord, astral traveling. What happens is, so you lay on the ground and you allow your so you just relax your physical body, but then what you do is you raise the vibration of your etheric body, your non-physical spiritual body, and you allow it to raise and vibrate so much that it'll actually separate from your physical body. And then you can go and you can wander around. You can look through walls. You can hover over the community and your roof, or go in different rooms in your home and stuff like that. And you're always attached by what's called a silver cord. So your silver cord is the connection between your soul and your basically your a spiritual body, or your etheric body. And so
Okay,
that keeps you attached to it. And so at any time, if you ever want to come back to your body, you just think of your physical body, and your silver cord will just snap you back into your body, and you're good, you're safe, and it's fine.
that's
So
very
that's
cool.
like that part of you that keeps you attached. It's like a tether, basically.
So if you're astral traveling and you're in the um, spirit realm, can that cord ever be severed?
No,
No.
no. So I do tell my students, I don't go into too much detail in my channeling level 2 where we cover this topic, is, or actually level 3, sorry. I don't, I just tell them, I say, just make sure you stay in the light. So whenever you astral travel, and it's all like, for me, we touch on ethics and morals and integrity and things like that, especially in levels 2 and 3, where we go into that in great detail. And so same thing comes when you're attempting to astral travel. Just make sure you go in with the right intention, that you're not going to go in there and try to dabble in the dark, and like stay away from the dark stuff. There is,
Yes.
I would I would love to say, oh, there's no such thing as dark stuff, but there is. When it comes to spirituality, there is. And please stay away from it. Anyone listening, like just keep away from it like the plague, and do not go anywhere near anything that is not of the light, any dark arts, anything like that, any voodoo or anything like that could be in a negative sense. I'm not saying that all voodoo, you know what I mean, but just stay away
Yes.
from anything that is of malintent and try to just keep working in the light and you'll be fine.
And is it not a good caution to don't even try astral traveling until you really understand what you're
No,
doing?
no, go for it. Just
Really?
try it.
Okay. Nope.
Yeah, have fun with it. It's safe. It's
Okay.
totally fine.
Cool. 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 Um, got a few minutes left. We touched on new soul and old soul. You kind of mentioned it, but you didn't really you didn't elaborate on it. So I want you to, because this is something that comes up to me all the time, where people are like, "Well, what's the difference between an old soul and a new soul?"
Yeah. Okay, so the best example I can give is just to go back to what I said to before I say this is that an old soul is somebody who's incarnated on this planet many times. So remember, all souls are created at the same time, but we consider when someone goes and it's like, oh, you're such an old soul. It's somebody who's been around the block, somebody who knows this stuff, who's been in this planet many times, usually thousands of times, and then a new soul comes and they're relatively new to this planet. So the best example I can give is like imagine like two brothers, and one's an old soul and one's a new soul. Well, the old soul is just like going through its day, everything's fine, whatever, it kind of knows what to do, not to do. But then the new soul, the other brother is like, oh my goodness, like what's this? What's that? Touching things, sticking like forks in a light socket and running out into the bush and getting on. And the other brother's like, what's the matter with you? Like, get back here! Like you're reining him in, and that's because to the new soul, everything's like new and wonderment and wow and this and that. So that's one of the signs that it could potentially be a new soul. And another one is that a lot of the new souls that come here, their bodies are not, well, because it's more than just your physical body, it's also your spiritual and all the other aspects. So it doesn't accept and do well with things like chemicals, pesticides, processed foods, and things that have like genetic GMO and things like that, because they're such a new soul. They're super sensitive to this stuff. So in a good way, you'll find that the parents, they'll have no choice but to feed the children, that the ones that are new souls, feed them health. And now, don't get me wrong, there are old souls who just have sensitivities. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about if it truly is a new soul and they do have lots of sensitivities, they might have to feed them healthier foods and not as much processed foods, and maybe scent-free laundry detergents and things like that that don't have the chemicals in it because their bodies react to it and they're very sensitive to it. So that can often be a sign that they're a new soul. Not always, but often.
Yes.
Things like that.
Here's a great question, and I think I know where she's going with this. This is from Armanda in a beautiful Okanagan, British Columbia.
Woo, woo.
Um, is it possible to be both souls, old and young, or old and new?
Well, they would be somewhere in between. So
Yes.
yeah, like again, okay. So spirituality. Sometimes people think it's like all or nothing. It's like always this or never that, or it's a black and white. And oftentimes, what I found is that it's some shade of gray. So it could be this extreme, it could be the other extreme, or oftentimes it's somewhere in that middle range. And in this case, the question when I tune into it is that it's usually like maybe somebody who's incarnated hundreds of times, so not like really old, like tens of thousands of times, and not like a new soul who's only been like a dozen times.
So
So,
if someone incarnated on Earth 1,000 times, but then on that 1,001th time they go to another planet, are they considered a new soul in that other planet?
yeah, if it's so, let me use myself as an example. So I've incarnated on Siri. So not on the star, but the planet that goes around the star, Sirius. When you look up in the sky, and Palladian and a few other ones that I've incarnated on. I've incarnated on those planets several thousands of times. So for the star system, Sirius, I'm actually would still be considered an old soul on that planet. Whereas on like Palladian, I would actually be considered a relatively new soul still, because
Yes.
that one I just haven't incarnated quite as much. is an example, and then Earth like quite a few times as well. So again, I just get away from who cares if it's a new soul, old soul. It's not really. It's more about seeing everyone as beautiful, amazing souls, and there's no hierarchy thing or one greater than the other. Um, yeah,
So, with just wrapping up here, if people want to delve into this and go deeper, what's the best way that they can get in touch with Mr. Lewicki?
please, please, please go ahead and private message me. Don't be shy. I make myself available to my students. Feel free to go to my channelinginc.com website, channelinginc.com, and just go ahead and go straight register. You can book a one-on-one session with me. You can go straight into my workshops. This is my level 1 certification workshop, and that's where you'll receive the bulk of the training is in the level 1. So if you can, just jump right in and go into the next one, and you'll get 14 hours of training, and it's probably the most comprehensive channeling training out there in the world. Like, it is super comprehensive, and like I said earlier, it's not just me talking the whole time. It's actually experiential teaching where you'll actually be going from one exercise to the next, to the next, to the next. So my whole goal is to empower my students so that they can channel without me, and eventually get to a point where you can even do greater things and stand on my shoulders and do more, even more amazing things than me with what I've taught you. And I want that, because it's not about me. It's about making a good, positive difference in this world. And you're going to be able to touch people that I might not be able to. So let's just go out there and learn these skills and bless the world. And my mission statement is to make this world a better place by teaching people how to channel.
That is awesome. And your next level 1, when is it coming up?
Yeah, so it's July 9th and 10th. Anyone want to tune into that? Yeah,
July
so
9th and 10th.
yeah,
And they can go to channelinginc.com to sign up for that.
yeah.
It's gonna be a full class. I have a feeling that you're gonna have a lot of students. But the weekend before that, if you're in the Calgary area, anywhere in the Alberta area, where should they head, Mr. Lewicki?
Yeah, so either you can go to my website for the Spirituality is Fun Expo if you want to come out on the Canada Day long weekend, and you'll see the link there. You click there, there's an Eventbrite. You just go ahead, and it's only $10, and you get speakers, readers, psychics, mediums, belly dancers. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a blast. Food trucks, you name it. Like, just come out and enjoy that weekend in Canmore,
Let's
wherever
touch
you're from.
base on the, you say readers, like sorry, or speakers, and you just kind of glossed over it.
Oh yeah,
We got a few minutes.
yeah.
What are what are you going to be reading? Like what? Or
Yeah,
sorry,
so
who's going to be
this
talking, and what are
first
they going to
person
be
is going to
talking
be
about?
open. Her name is Kayla, and Kayla is going to be doing a singing bowl opening ceremony, and she's going to start us off with beautiful singing bowls, crystal singing bowls, and then I'm going to be coming up on the stage next, and I'm actually going to be teaching you and training you how to channel your spirit guides. So make sure you come out for that, and then after that we're going to have some belly dance. No, sorry. After that we're going to have Kevin and Graham, who's going to be doing actual like mediumship on the group, like channeling loved ones and all that for the whole group readings and stuff like that. And then after that, then we're going to do belly dancing. But I don't know if I will. I'm not. I can't.
I'm
I'll
going to say
try,
there's
but
no way I'm getting up and belly dancing.
yeah, and then
Nobody wants to see
after
that.
that, there's going to be some. After that, there's going to be a lady who's going to be doing group healing, and then after that, there's going to be Akashic Records speakers, an Octopus Method, and then after that, I'm going to be doing training on channeling your spirit guides, and then crystal bowls, singing bowls to finish it. And the coolest thing, we're going to have some huge door prizes. We're talking like probably over $1,000 worth of prizes. So I
I
mean,
was
$10
shocked
you
how
come in
much
if
people
you
are
connect
donating.
with one reader and you get tons out of just one reader, you've already like it's been worth it. And there's going to be a whole bunch of spiritual vendors and then psychics, mediums, and all that in the basement, and it's just going to be a blast.
So if you're in the Calgary area, July 2nd, what a great weekend, Canada Day weekend. Head out to Canmore, Alberta. It's going to
And
be
if you
at
know
the
anyone,
Canmore Opera House.
Canmore
Um,
Opera House, and if you know anyone, yes.
yes, for sure. Any questions on that, feel free to message myself, Kevin Hughes at Cavelli Channeling, or Ken at channelinginc.com. We can give you more information on that. Until next show, which will be, I'm just going to click on my calendar real quick.
Yeah, and while Kevin is doing that, if any of you want readings, like just straight up readings, Kevin does readings on a weekly basis. Message him, you can get a reading. If you want training, you want to learn how to do this, message me. I'll get you either a one-on-one session, and I do have discounts for people that are new to my services, or into a workshop, or right straight into the channeling level 1. And I also teach animal communication, and it's so fun, so fabulous. Like, who doesn't want to channel animals? Like, animals are wonderful. Even if you don't have a pet, you can still learn animal communication, because people who do have animals and do have pets, or just in the animal communication workshop, I teach people how to be a certified animal communicator, and we do things like channeling exotic pets or exotic animals, and all sorts of cool stuff. It's tons of fun.
Is it the third or fourth Wednesday? It's the fourth Wednesday of every
Fourth
month
Wednesday, yeah.
That we do the show. So it'll be July 27th. Mark your calendars. We will be putting out posts, of course, but mark your calendars. Tell your friends. Get them if they have questions. Send them before if you want. Ken and I make a list. If you see me looking like this, I'm looking over at a list of questions people have sent us previous. So till
Thank
next
you, everyone, for
month.
tuning in. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I do appreciate everyone. You are the ones that make the show happen with your questions, with your participation. So please tune in the fourth Wednesday of every month and have your questions ready, and we will answer them and channel them. And anything you would like to end with, Kevin?
Just thank you, Ken, for giving me the privilege of being able to host the show. I have so much fun doing it. So until July 27th, folks, we will talk to you then.